Hi everyone, I'm going to make a start now. So thank you very much first of all for coming to the event. My name is Tim Brennan. I'm an inventor. I'm also a product designer and engineer, but my profession really is an inventor. Tonight I'm going to share a few stories and hopefully give you a few insights into what being an inventor is like. So why did I put this event on? I decided to put this event on because I kept hearing lots of people wanting to do Kickstarters, and there are lots of people doing hardware startups in general. But my path has been quite different from that. Instead of making a company and getting involved with all the parts of getting a product into production, I actually licensed my idea to a company that already existed. And by renting the idea to them, I actually got an income without having to do every last little piece and taking the financial risk that's normally associated with starting your own company. So when I first started doing what I do, I really had no clue what I was doing. And I thought there might be other people out there who were in the same boat as that I was. And really it's only been in the last 18 months that I've learnt most of what I practice today in terms of licensing. So I wanted to share some of that information with you guys. So tonight, this is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that it will increase your chance of getting your invention out into the world, that it will be more profitable or reach more people. Licensing, you get only a small royalty. So per product you get paid less than if you were to make a startup, but you normally are able to reach more people because you're plugging into a company that has existing distribution, so you don't have to do all that painstaking work. Instantly you can be everywhere and sell a large quantity in a short space of time. Hopefully you'll enjoy the process of inventing more and help to get rid of the unnecessary fear and anxiety, which is something that a lot of inventors actually have. It's very common, and I'm going to be touching on that subject a bit later on. Hopefully I'll be able to show you a way to have multiple or even dozens of products out in the marketplace, which for me is one of the best reasons to go down the licensing route, because rather than spending years and years on one product, you can actually have multiple products out in the same period. I also want to straighten out some misconceptions that inventors have. So tonight is going to be in a few parts. Part one, I'm going to give a brief history of my story as an inventor. Then I'm going to reveal the 7 secrets. And then I'm going to run through a few case studies, and then we'll open up for some questions and answers at the end. I was supposed to take this slide out, but I'll talk about it anyway. So this is a comparison between, I talked a bit about inventing versus venturing. So a project normally will cost about £150 and maybe about 3 weeks on average for me to do. Whereas if I were to venture it, it would be years of my work and tens of thousands of pounds. So that just sort of underlines what, it's not necessarily, that's just one strength that licensing has, is less financial risk. Some products don't really suit licensing and they suit venturing, so it really depends on the product, it depends on your skill set. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a bit about me to start off with. So this is me here. I must have been about 15 or something. This is my mum, this is my granddad, and this is my uncle's mother. So when I was about this age, I was maybe doing my GCSEs. I loved doing design technology. So all the other kids were out playing football, and I like football, but better was to go in and use the workshop. So I was making things out of wood, and I made this this truck which lifted and raised the bucket with hypodermic syringe for the kind of hydraulics. That's what I used to love doing. At the same time, I used to love playing tennis. I was a massive fan. I love playing tennis. And over here you can see me in my tennis gear, just waiting to get out and play tennis. I used to play tennis every day. I played tennis every day through GCSEs, A-levels, into university. It was just part of what I did every day, playing tennis. So this is me with my tennis coach in the middle, that's David. And Vic is on the far right. Vic sadly passed away earlier this year. And David had an invention which was a game called Duck a Tur, which is a brilliant tennis game. And that's why he's holding that, because us three used to spend a lot of time together plotting how we were going to get this game out to the world. Just to show how dedicated I am as a tennis player, this was when we had heavy snowfall about 3 years ago. But did it stop us playing tennis? No, we dug the court out. And that's just how serious and how much I love the game. So, after I did my A-levels, I studied a mechanical engineering degree, and it was called Innovation and Engineering Design. And it was supposed to be a bit of a blend between industrial design and mechanical engineering. And it was the first year that the University of Bath had ever run this course. And the way it turned out was that they couldn't get the accreditation if they cut too much of the engineering out. So it was a little bit of the creative design side, and mostly it was mechanical engineering. So about 18 months into the 4-year course, I realised that there was something massively missing. I wasn't using my strengths. So I lined up another course to go on, which I ended up getting onto an MA in Industrial Design Engineering, which is a joint course between the Royal College of Art and Imperial. And at that time, it's different now, but at that time they used to take on engineering students and convert them into designers and teach them all the things that an engineering degree might not teach you. Now, whilst I was there, I invented a shoe, which I'm going to talk about in detail. And it was called Vivo. And when I left the Royal College of Art and Imperial, I took my major project and got it into production. So from 2003 to 2004, I spent 6 days a week working really, really hard, getting that product out there and manufactured with a company. And then for several years, I really didn't do anything related to inventing. But just last year, about 18 months ago, I signed up for a course that taught licensing, something that I was making a living from, but I really didn't feel like I knew how to do it again, or how to do it without a lot of stress and a lot of time, which I didn't really, have a place for in my life. So this was really a new beginning for me in my career as an inventor. So most inventors, not all of them, but most of them are actually trying to solve a problem. And my problem was ankle twists. I told you how much I love tennis, and I used to play tennis every day, and I also love to play tennis competitions, so I was pushing my body to its limits. And I was unfortunate to have quite a few ankle injuries to both ankles, and this is essentially what happened. I twisted my ankle, and it would damage the ligaments, and it would be very sore, and it wasn't so much the pain that was the problem, it was feeling like I wasn't going to achieve my goal of performing and winning on the tennis court. So I wanted to demonstrate this a bit more. So I wanted to show you that this is actually a very common problem on the professional circuit. And I'm going to show you a few injuries, but they're not the worst injuries you've ever seen. There are worse injuries out there, so it's not that brutal, but I think it will explain the problem a bit better. Just find the right one. Okay.
Dans son match, on va le voir courir, aller chercher une balle, et puis regardez au ralenti cette terrible image. Voilà, la cheville, une entorse et...
On sent qu'il y a eu glissade.
So that's Pete Sampras.
Well, here's the drop shot that drew Wozniacki forward. Now she's going to try to get up, make an effort, and try to slide and stop, and you just see all of her weight go over as the right ankle rolls over on her. And that is a dicey and scary proposition for any athlete.
So they're pretty powerful images because as human beings we don't like to see other human beings in pain. But what I want to sort of convey to you is that's not only, it's not just something that's painful in the moment and kind of inconvenient. It's actually possibly the end of someone's career. It's actually probably the end of someone's dream of actually winning a big tournament. So it's something that they've put a huge amount of effort into, and that's probably 10 times more painful than the actual injury. So I set about creating a shoe that wouldn't injure my ankle in this way, and I came up with a shoe that was very thin. It was primarily to stop ankle injuries. That's why I created the product, to try and avoid this problem and help me just play tennis without injuries. But it also had some extra benefits. I was having Alexander technique lessons at the time, and I also realized that shoes can stop your foot flexing as much as they naturally would. You can see on the right hand side that a foot flexing at about 55 degrees without shoes, that's natural. But because shoes are stiff and they bend in the wrong places, you only normally get about 25 degrees of bending. And you can see in children when they learn to walk, they demonstrate this quite nicely. A lot of shoes are actually too narrow, but they look nice. But over time, this can create lots of problems, and your toes get squashed into unnatural shapes. And the foot really expands every time you flex the foot. So you're kind of, by constraining the width of the foot, you're actually impeding the natural way that it likes to flex. Well, this is nothing new really, because in China you can see this picture. A rickshaw coolie would be pulling the rickshaw without shoes, and they'd run for many hours every day. And medical observers went to China and observed the feet of people, and they said that these rickshaw coolies had the most healthy feet of anyone. So really it questions why we wear these cushioned soled shoes. Now this was probably the first ever prototype of the shoe that I created, and I named it Vivo, which is a Latin word which means to be alive. I called it that because I designed this shoe on my foot. I would put the shoe on and see how it felt, and that in scientific terms is called in vivo, in a living thing. So I took my old trainers and I cut off the soles, and then I just wanted to get a thin material really quickly to make a quick prototype. And the thing that was on my desk was a tennis racket case. So you can see it says sort of Dunlop on the bottom. And so I just put the shoe on there and drew around it and cut it out. And then I got the hot glue gun and just sort of joined the two together. And then I went and tried it out, went running a little bit, tried it out. And in this way, I realized that I could actually solve my ankle injury by having a sort of almost barefoot state. I then went on to get involved with the sewing machine. So you can see here, this is a leather and neoprene prototype with a zip. And then I made this one here, which was actually made out of a rubber sheet. I got lots of granules, put them in a heat press. This was all when I was at the Royal College of Art, and tried to not set the fire alarms off with the smoke, which was tricky. And I had the zip in here, so that the entire sole would zip off. And the thinking behind that is, if I'm playing tennis in these, because of the thinness, it would need to be replaced quite often because it wasn't durable enough. So I thought if the whole sole could zip off, then that would solve that problem. And there's also another point, which is you can feel the ground more accurately with a thin sole. Which has a massive effect, because you actually behave differently when you can feel how much impact you're putting through your foot. If you numb the sole of the foot, you're actually putting out of commission 20,000 nerve endings, which is the highest concentration anywhere to be found in the human body. And as a result, you land too heavily. And so even though you're getting extra shock absorption from a cushioned sole, you're overloading it so much that over time, it's thought might end up with an injury. And this is a theory that's been put forward by scientists. And I believe it, and this was what I was experiencing with my prototypes. So after graduating, I was actually burnt out. I got really interested in being a perfectionist. I thought that everything had to be perfect, and I wanted my work to be as good as all the other people around me were. And I was very disappointed if this wasn't happening. So when I graduated, I decided that I was going to play lots of competition tennis, which is the one thing that I hadn't been able to do for the last 2 years when I was studying. I wasn't allowed to go out. There were lectures on. I wasn't allowed to go out and play tennis. So it was a bit like my stand against being told what to do. I said, right, I'm going to go out and play tennis. And soon after that, I developed some more ankle injuries because my prototypes wore out, and I had to go back to a conventional tennis shoe. I didn't have access to workshops anymore, so I actually wound up right back where I started. And I didn't have very much money at the time. I was signing on, trying to, pay the bills, trying to pay for food, and really it was almost impossible to do what I needed to do to be fit and healthy and play tennis. So in order to solve this problem, I thought, great idea, I'll just take my degree project, I'll take this shoe and I'll show it to some major manufacturers of sports shoes, and they'll, if I market it the right way and if I explain all the benefits like I've just explained to you, of course they're going to think this is a great product and they could make some money out of it. I'd get my shoes, I'd have some money to play tennis, and that would fulfill my needs. So I wrote letters to all the design departments in these companies, maybe a few more, but these are the major ones that I had on my list. And one by one, they sent me rejection letters, or some of them didn't reply at all. But I was putting a lot of work in and getting very little response back. It was very long-winded, and I was pretty disappointed. But then one day my luck turned, because I was actually playing a tennis match at Earlsfield Tennis Club near Wimbledon, and I was playing a chap called Percy, and for some reason Percy and I got talking about shoes, probably because I was wearing some shoes with holes in it, and he just thought that looks interesting. So we were talking about shoes, and he said to me that he knew one of the Clark's family. His name was Conrad Clark, one of the boys of the Clark's family, and he said you should give him a ring. He plays tennis with me at a different club, so he gave me his mobile number. And that night I rang my tennis coach. I used to ring him every single night after I played a match, and I said, I just got given the phone number for one of the Clark's family. And coincidentally, my coach used to live about a 5-minute walk away from the Clark's family's house, and he used to coach them when they were juniors. So he knew exactly what they could possibly, do with this product. They could have it everywhere. He was thinking under the Clark's brand. About 2 weeks later, I hadn't rung the number. I had my head in the sand. So my tennis coach said to me, "Have you rung the number?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Just ring the number." And because he's my tennis coach, you do what the tennis coach tells you to do. So I rang the number. And then just a few days later, I was meeting Conrad in his house in Kentish Town. And he loved the product, but he said, "Actually, I'm not actually making shoes at the moment. I'm involved with something else. So I'm going to actually give you the contact of my brother. His name's Galahad." So I went and met with Galahad. Galahad liked the shoe, and he said, "This is really interesting. We've got a small shoe company, not Clark's, but we've actually got another small shoe company called Terraplana. And my dad actually owns that company. His name's Lancelot." These are their real names. Galahad, son of Lancelot, running a shoe business out of London Bridge at the time. And so this is Lancelot and Galahad Clark, and this is the shop that we had on Bermondsey Street in London Bridge, or rather they had it. I was supplying them with the idea of the barefoot shoe. And on the left-hand side, you can see a last with masking tape plastered all over it, and that was the first design that went into production in the making. And their shoe company was called Terraplana. So this was a massive project. They didn't actually want to take the idea and run with it. They were quite a small company at that time, so they needed me to come on board and do some of the design work, and that was kind of like a nightmare for me, because I just wanted to throw them this idea and go off and play tennis. And what was actually happening is I was being pulled back into the design area, which I was kind of like struggling to get through because of my perfectionist. The way I saw things wasn't healthy at that time. So I'm just going to show you. Not Skype. See if I can get to this document. This is my sketchbook. This kind of like shows how much design work I went through. This is just one step. So I decided on the shape, which I must have drawn about 50 times to try and get a shape that allowed space for the toes but wasn't too much like a duck foot. And then I photocopied the outline lots and lots of times and just started sketching on there different designs. The drawings weren't particularly good, but it was just a way of having a conversation about what was good, what was not going to work, what might work, and it just sort of feeds your imagination a bit. And then every time I came up with something that I thought was reasonably good, then I took it onto the computer and drew it really neatly with clean lines. And you can see here some of on the right hand side, something about a train going, ignore that. On the right hand side, this is like my idea of having a range. I had the idea that I wanted a range of sports, and ones for the beach and ones that are boots for the winter, and having a whole range. This was the sort of dream. And this is getting towards the first ever production shoe, which we ended up calling the Avalon. I just whiz through. This is a bit more like it. You can see that the shoe shape has been changed to make it a bit more conventional, a bit less like a duck foot. But it just goes on and on. It still has a zip. And this was another one. This was the other one that went into production as well. So there were two styles when we started off, just two. This one was called the Root. So that's just a small window. That probably was like a few days worth of work, but it's just like it just was all consuming. Everything that I did was to do with shoes. We would go off to Italy to a show where they would have nothing but shoe materials, and we'd pick out the best materials for our shoes. Another one where we'd actually go and show prototypes, and hopefully some buyers would come and put some orders in. So it was really taking up every minute. Even if I wasn't there, I was thinking about it. Oops. What's going on? See if I can get back to PowerPoint. Okay. So everything was moving forward, one way or another. It was moving forward, and then suddenly we got a letter which was pretty serious. Is it going to move? Okay. So our shoe was called Vivo, and there was another shoe called Vivo. It was a German company. I think their name was Solidus, and they had a shoe called Vivo. It was just one of their line, the Vivo by Solidus. And it looked nothing like ours, and it was for a different market, but the name was the same. And it was a letter from their lawyers saying, you must stop making these shoes. So, quick phone call to Germany, and without using the lawyers, Galahad said, we didn't know anything about it, we're just going to do this production run, and from every shoe from now on, we won't call Vivo, we'll call Vivo Barefoot, and the two words have to always be together, because otherwise we will be infringing. And they agreed that that was fair enough. So without use of lawyers, an arrangement was made. And we launched the shoe, this is the Avalon, in 2004. There was only 2 styles, but lots of different colours, and there were men's and women's versions. And this was the route, heavily worn. These, at the moment, I gave away to my flatmate who now lives in Wisconsin. So these still go on, they still got the zips. And he's now doing his photo shoots wearing this pair of shoe. And then a year after launching, the Vibram 5-finger came out, which is probably the most famous barefoot shoe of modern times. And it was its greatest strength was that when people saw it, you'd never forget it, because it had these 5 fingers on there, and they had someone working there who did a fantastic PR job, and they were just everywhere. In Europe, they were selling okay, but in America, they were selling really well. And at their height, I heard that they were selling 3 million pairs a year, which is pretty impressive. Oops, gone too far. Okay. So one of the first things that I did when the shoes went into production was that I sent them off to a tennis player who works at Wimbledon, the All England club, and he's actually the tournament referee now for the Wimbledon Championships. And so I sent him a pair of shoes, thinking that he might enjoy them, and I got an email back inviting me to go and play a bit at the All England club. So it was a dream come true to be able to play there, and it's these moments that really make it all worthwhile. So this is where we are in 2015. This shoe is called the Evo Pure, and this is my favourite shoe probably of all time. It has lots of space for the toes, and it's really thin and flexible, and I love it. So I stopped working on the project in 2005, but the shoe now really has a life of its own. All the design development is done in-house by other people. I don't have any involvement in that, but I still get a royalty for every pair sold because of the technology in the sole. So I just want to show an ad just to sort of demonstrate where the shoe is now. Okay.
You're out in the cold, into the light. Shut up, it's not your fault. You can't know from the freezing cold. So dream about her every night. And when she smiles, it's not so frightening. Just open with some sweeping line or rhyme or anything that comes to mind. You'll dream about her every night. And the cold is so inviting. Shut up, it's not your fault. You can't know from the freezing cold. So dream about her every night. And when she smiles, it's not so frightening. Just open with some sweeping line or rhyme or anything that comes to mind. You'll dream about her every night. And the cold is so inviting.
So the reason I wanted you to see that is because I took them this product and then this has happened. And really, that's the power of licensing. Whoops. You give them an idea and they will breathe life into it. So there are companies out there that have designers, they have marketing department, they have distribution, they have manufacturing all set up. And what they need is ideas that are going to be the next big thing. And so this is why I love licensing so much, is because you don't have to do all that work, years and years of work. You let someone else do that and you just feed them with ideas. So really the 7 secrets, which I'm just about to get onto, have really come about in the last 18 months when I decided to take up this course that teaches licensing. So March 2014, I signed up as a student on Inventright, which is a course that is run out of Nevada, and it sounds a bit dodgy because they're in America and you have to pay money up front, and it's for inventors. So those sort of 3 things, it just sort of like, you know, alarm bells are going off, because there's lots of companies out there that say give us money and we'll get your invention out there, and sometimes people get disappointed. Okay, so I was a bit cautious, but I decided that these 2 guys, they seem to know what they're talking about, and there were lots of people saying really positive things about them. So I decided I'd just take a chance. I thought I wouldn't ever know if this was right for me. I didn't know if it was right for me, but I thought I'll never know unless I do it. So by this stage, Vivo was selling quite well. And I had a bit of extra money to spend, so I put that money back into my education, and I wanted to take my education to the next level and have more products out there and be able to do what these guys were teaching. So secret number 1 is with licensing, not all industries are the same, and some industries are quite competitive, and when you show them your idea, they might go away and work around it so they don't have to pay anything. And so really for those industries you need several patent pendings to sort of stop all the workarounds, whereas other industries, they don't really care about patents at all. Well, packaging is one industry which you have to be really battle hardened to operate in, I feel. The packaging industry produces such huge quantities that when you do anything that's outside of what's already being done, you really have to invent and build a new machine that can churn them out fast enough. So it's very much a long haul project to get the manufacturing working. And because they do, I think there's something like 1 billion Cokes made every day. So if you come up with a new ring pull, there is such a huge quantity involved that that's why it's so highly competitive. Other industries are very transient. So a patent takes about 3 or 4 years to issue, and some markets move in and out of fashion so quickly that by the time you've got a patent, the whole market has moved on to the next season, and so there's really no need. There's the way you protect yourself there is just getting first to market and getting the market saturated, and then you move on. So really, talking about licensing as one thing is really kind of missing something very important, that you need to treat each sector differently. And the thing that InventRight was saying was that they had so much experience that they knew, each sector very well, which is something that I had no idea. So my experience of fashion was kind of completely, it was like that was licensing for me. Whereas now I just see that as one sector. That's the way that one sector works, and every sector is different. So secret number 2 is don't get married to your ideas, which is something that a lot of inventors do. And I think this is probably because when you develop something very thoroughly, you work for many, many months, sometimes years, on one idea. And so you have a lot invested in it, emotionally, financially. Your time is in this idea, and it changes your perception. You start to become a little bit paranoid. You might maybe a bit defensive. You might not want to show it to people. You feel like someone's going to take your idea because you've got so much to risk. So not getting married to your ideas is the way to overcome that. And most importantly, the less time you spend on an idea, the less married you are to the idea. And having more ideas makes you less attached to just one. Okay, so having lots of ideas, having them in quick succession, not spending all your time on one, it has been like a massive improvement in the way that I work. Staying in one industry and feeding that industry is really important also, because when you're getting to know an industry, you can spend all your time just getting to know who's who. You don't really know who the major players are. Sometimes there's just a small amount of large companies or ones that are a good fit for you, and all the other ones really are not the right match for your product. But in the first situation, you don't really know which ones are which. So it takes you a huge amount of time getting to know who's who, and also getting to know what they're looking for and what products would be a good match. So staying in one industry, understanding what is in that industry and what they're looking for is really, really important in improving dramatically your chances of success. Now, something that I was worried about is travelling. So secret 4 is you don't have to travel the world showing companies your inventions. In fact, you don't have to ever meet them to get a licensing deal. And this was something that I didn't think was possible. With the shoes, I was very much working in London because that's where the company was. And I thought, if I come up with something and I have to move to China or move to America, I just thought this isn't convenient for my life at the moment. So I didn't. That was kind of like off-putting me for a long time. But now I do licensing deals over the phone, via email. I present my work with videos, so I make video marketing, and I keep the video to just about a minute long. I show a problem for the first 9 seconds, and then sort of 5 seconds after that problem I show a big reveal of the solution, and then the rest of the minute is just kind of like filling in all the gaps, making it believable and showing all the benefits. But really communicating the benefits is something that a video does exceptionally well. You don't have to go there in person. You can email very quickly lots of companies, and so that has been a huge secret for me. Secret 5, spending less time on the product design and more time on the marketing. Now, because I'm a product designer, it's very much part of my ego that when I produce something, I want it to look really beautiful and for people to be impressed by it. All the people that were surrounding me at college had a huge effect, and you almost feel like you're competing in a sort of not in a bad way, but in a good way, that you just want your product to be at the level that everyone else is. And so when you produce something that's a bit, it's just kind of like a proof of concept, and then you're presenting that, For a long time I felt like I need to develop it more, and but really, as long as it looks good in the video, as long as it demonstrates the benefit, it can be sort of semi-functional, but as long as the video fakes it and makes it look good, then that's the first step to getting interest. And then if they're interested, you can go back and spend a week or two making a really good prototype that they can then make a more detailed analysis of. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so marketing means lots of different things, but essentially what I'm talking about in the first stages is communicating a benefit. So this was something that's kind of alien to me, because when you're thinking about the product all day long, you end up thinking about features. So it's got to be this, the shoe's got to be thin, it's got to be flexible, it's got to do this, and you get lost in what is actually the benefit. So I guess the benefit of the Vivo shoe is like freedom for feet. It's an experience freedom for your feet, and for some people that's a really powerful benefit. There are different benefits according to which segment you're talking about, but comfort is another. So having comfortable feet, that's a benefit. So it's really getting down to, why is someone going to pay money for your product? Refining your marketing message, yeah, exactly. So in Brennan I talk about one-line benefit statement, because sometimes you can talk for 10 minutes and still not really understand the benefit. So if you can just boil it down to one sentence, and if you really nail it, sometimes it's hard for me to do that even now, but that's really what's important when you're trying to get interest. So secret number 6, we've done that. Secret number 7, massaging your ego versus operational efficiency. So it was a bit of an issue for me, because I had to create drawings, I had to create video, I had to apply for a patent that has drawings in it, and so I wanted everything to be really good looking. I wanted to do all the work myself. I didn't want to sort of outsource any part of that process, because I felt like I'm the creative one, so even if it's just taking a photograph and tracing it, and then rendering it, colouring it in, and making it look like a pretty diagram for a patent application, I wouldn't. That can be done by anyone, any graphic designer, but I wanted to do it because it was my idea, and so this is. At one point, my coach was saying, you're really better off spending $5 going on to Fiverr, having the product traced for you, and it might not be 100% perfect, but it's good enough, and that's fine. So that was quite a big learning process for me as well. So secret 7A is how to protect your idea effectively without spending a fortune on patents and prototypes. And probably if these secrets are put in order of importance, is probably number 1, because it's very common if you go to inventors clubs, you'll often, or even industrial design graduates, they might not spend thousands, but they've invested thousands worth of their time, and sometimes they apply for patents, and that can be very expensive, tens of thousands of pounds, and 3 years to get a patent. And most of the time they do all this before they've even shown one company, because they think that they need the best protection to stop people taking the idea unfairly. And really this is the actual opposite of the way that I work these days. Before I show an idea, I have a patent pending status, which costs $65 using the US system. In the US you can write, it's the same in the UK, but there's slight differences. But anyone can write a patent application, file it online. It costs $65. Normally it's about roughly 3 pages of words and 3 pages of pictures and a couple of forms to fill out. And once you've done it once, it's hard to do the first time, but once you've done it once, you get used to it, and I can do it in a day normally. And on top, so I've got patent pending status, and then the other way to protect your idea is to behave professionally and ask intelligent questions. So the questions that you ask and the way that you behave is really sending out a huge message as to what kind of a person you are. The last thing that a company wants, even when they're being presented with the best invention that they've ever seen, the last thing that they want is someone being unreasonable and asking for too much money up front. So the way that licensing really works is that you don't get paid up front generally. You get your money as a royalty after the product's been sold. And that way it's less financial risk for the company. It makes better sense that way. So if the product never sells, then they haven't given you, a lump sum of money up front, and so it makes sense for them, and that's generally the way that it's recommended it's done. Spending a fortune on prototypes doesn't have to be perfect. It just the video and the marketing message have to be spot on, but that's something that doesn't take a lot of financial input. You have to get it right, but really the prototype just has to be good enough to demonstrate the benefit statement that you're claiming. So those are the 7 secrets, and now I'm going to do a few case studies, starting with something that I did when I was doing my A-levels. And as a tennis nut, obviously the first thing that I was going to invent, given the chance, was something to replace this contraption, which you might have seen in the hands of tennis coaches. It's a ball hopper or a ball basket, and you push it down over a tennis ball and then fold the legs round, and it turns into a hopper that you can pick the balls out of for coaching, feeding lots of balls and then picking them up again. So this, as how old was I then? Probably 17-year-old. This was one idea. I was just generating lots of ideas, and I was thinking of a Velcro belt that would kind of grip onto the balls, and then it would go all the way around, and then the ball would get knocked off and go into the basket. And that was just one idea of many, but in the end this was what I decided would be a really good idea. So it has a roller at the front, and then a conveyor belt which transports the ball all the way up and into the basket, and as you push this forward, that drives the roller and the conveyor belt together to move the ball up into the basket. And I built it, and this thing weighed a ton. You could probably land an aircraft on it. It was made out of steel and aluminium, and but it worked, and it was actually a really good thing, because you could actually go around corners, because the wheels were not fixed to the shaft. They were actually independent, so it's kind of a bit like having a differential gear that you have on a car. So you could actually go around a corner and the outside wheel would turn faster, and then maybe the inside wheel would actually be stopped, and it would actually it would work on either wheel. So it was like, 2-wheel drive. Sorry? No, it wasn't. It was a rubber conveyor belt. Yeah, because the Velcro wasn't working. It didn't grip the ball. Well, it was. You see the big sheet of aluminium at the front that had rubber on the inside, and so the conveyor belt was sort of sandwiching the ball in the middle. Yeah, so it was rolling the ball upwards and into the red box. And there's actually a picture of me pushing the ball machine, and I was really pleased with it. I thought, it obviously can't be manufactured for the right price, but it was a proof of concept, and so I wanted to show it to a tennis company. My favourite tennis company was Prince, and I still play with the Prince racket today. And so I showed it to one of their sales reps, and she said, really interesting, and she said, I'll pass the message on in the company. And but then really heard nothing back, and so started university, and was reading a tennis magazine. This is before the days of the internet almost. So I was reading a tennis magazine, and I saw this product in the sort of the back, and I was like, that's Prince, and they've got like a really similar product to mine, and I felt really disappointed, and because in the mind of it, tennis ball machine was something that I'd sort of crafted over months and months and months, and it was just sort of like my logic was that I'd shown it to Prince, and Prince, you know, had produced this machine, so I felt like I'd been, you know, treated unfairly. But you know, later what happened, very interestingly, about five years later, maybe, I was introduced to a search engine called Aspasnet, which is Aspasnet. You might have heard of it. It's just basically a search engine for patents, and so you can type in something like ball collector into it, and it will just throw back all these patents. And so the first thing that I did when I was trying out that tool was I typed in tennis ball collector, and I found my tennis ball collector on there, and the date of the patent was the year that I was born. So my idea wasn't new; it was actually older than me. So I didn't own it. I still don't know to this day whether that ball machine predates mine or what. But you know, I don't feel too badly because I know now the market for tennis ball collectors is very, very small. So I don't think it was actually worth a huge amount of money anyway. But that process of, you know, falling on your face is a bit like the way a skateboarder learns how to do tricks. That you have to kind of like go through a lot of pain of doing it the wrong way before you actually realise what the right way is. And for me, I was, you know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I don't like to have those experiences and learn from them. I just wanted everything to be sort of great from day one. Which is probably why I think InventRight is such a great course, because they've got, you know, hundreds of projects which they've done over the last 14 years, helping students getting deals. So they've pretty much seen it all before, whereas I haven't. So I don't have to learn from my mistakes. I'm learning from their mistakes most of the time. So I want to show you this video of the spin labels. Not that one, this one. So this is a packaging invention, and it gives you 75% more space, more information on the label. So it can be used for lots of different applications. And here you can see it's for drugs, so you can have it in larger font so it can be easily read. It can also be in multiple languages, so that if you know, it can cater for areas which have you know, 2 dominant languages. And you know, this potentially could save lives because the dosing information is actually really accurate. Okay. This technology can also be used on drinks. So this is Hannah Montana, and this is like a lenticular lens. You know those cards that you move at a different angle, you see a different animation? Well, as you spin it, it can actually play frames of a movie. So you can see Hannah Montana's like hair changes colour, and the background flashes, and you get motion. Okay, and this is actually one of the inventions of Stephen Key, who's one of the guys I showed you, who's the 2 guys who founded InventRight. So this is his, you know, one of his biggest inventions. Now on the other end of the spectrum, this is also by Stephen. Well, actually, this predates this. So Stephen did another invention, and he loves basketball. So he went into the toy store, and he looked and saw this Michael Jordan game. So Michael Jordan's on the backboard, and he just thought, you know, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player. He should be really big, and so invented this product, which is like a cutout of a poster, and he showed it to his wife when it was in early concept stage, and she said, "That idea is so terrible. You've got 1 in a million chance that anyone will pay you a penny for this." And he actually showed it to the company. They put it into production, and in the first year it sold over 1 million units, which number one, this kind of like is a double whammy, because licensing not only can you get huge volumes in no time at all, but you can also get use famous people like Michael Jordan or Disney characters. So you can have those characters come in. If the company's already got a license, as they did with Michael Jordan, they can just very quickly have something which is extremely popular. So here's the TV commercial.
Go one-on-one with Michael Jordan right in your own room with Michael Jordan wall ball.
Best looking backboard I ever seen.
So Michael Jordan says that's the best looking backboard I've ever seen. And I mean, for every inventor, that has to be the dream come true. That you invent something, you throw it together, and a year later you sold 1 million, and you've got Michael Jordan on the TV, on every advert break. Okay. Okay, so this next one is one of my favorites.
Rover loves to play, but he ends up filthy from the day. Bathing is a struggle, and what a mess! Introducing Woof Washer 360, the amazing new dog washing system that washes your dog in less than 1 minute, guaranteed. Watch, just connect Woof Washer 360 to your hose, add soap, slip the hoop on your dog, and slide to turn on. The soap and water instantly mix, creating a sudsy solution that scrubs Rover clean from head to toe. There's 2 modes, one for suds and one for rinse.
So this was an InventRight student who came up with this idea, and then for about 20 years did nothing with it. I think it might have been a school project or something, and then he showed it to a few companies and none of them liked it. And one company said, okay, we'll make a few, and they put this video onto Facebook, and within a few days it had 60 million views, where people were sending it to each other. And then all of a sudden now it's an as seen on TV product. It's going to be everywhere. And what I love about it is that it's got like such a great wow factor. It's not highly technical. It's very simple, but it's something that I've never seen anything like it, and it makes you actually want to get a dog and wash it. Okay. So I'm going to very quickly rush through the last few slides. Since joining InventRight, I've had a few projects, and as time's gone on, I've made them shorter. I've spent less time, and but really the money has been very little throughout. It's been about £150 generally per product. For the first one, I showed it to 120 companies and just spent ages phoning up, trying to get an answer. And in that time, I really understood what the market's looking for. So after 9 months, I hadn't got anywhere, and so over Christmas, I spent a week just coming up with a prototype, and then made a video, all very slowly. I mean, this probably was about 60 hours total before I submitted. And submitted to 52 companies because I knew the space really well, just filled out forms, submitted my idea, and within hours I'd had 4 companies offering me term sheets with offers. And then that really got the ball rolling. So I actually saw that the product is everything. If you understand a sector and you just feed them ideas and don't jump around from one sector to another and just stay in one and be focused, then you can get really good results very quickly. So the next product, 2 weeks, 40 hours, like less than $70, and it's now being tested. So I'm trying to get something onto the TV. So hopefully one of these ideas will eventually be on the TV. Same sort of story. Only 2 companies, because really I'm so narrowed down now that I just show it to one company at a time. I don't have to show it to everyone, and in fact the companies prefer it that way in this sector. So yeah, the list goes on, and again, it's just that it's a numbers game. So the more products you have, the more it's just like rolling a dice. The more times you roll the dice, sooner or later you're going to get a 6, and that's how you're successful. Now, to finish off with, I thought about top trumps, because I thought a licensing inventor has to have certain sort of attributes, and it should be sort of like made into a top trump game. And I don't know if you've ever played Top Trumps. It's a card game, and you get lots of different themes. So there's dinosaurs, and this one's from the royal wedding, and each card has a character, and there's like different strengths. And so you play a card, and if you beat that person, you say, okay, I'll play you age, knowing that no one's older than the Queen, and then she wins every time. But if it was on style icon, then maybe maybe someone else would win. Yeah. So this was a football one. There's all sorts of different ones, and so I really think that from 2 years ago to where I'm now, here's what if I was a top trump card, this is what my experience would be. I've kind of my ability to come up with ideas has kind of been reduced a bit because I'm staying in one sector. So whereas I like to jump around and be really creative and jump from sector to sector, I really now just focus. So I find it a little bit more difficult, but I'm gradually getting used to it. I was always quite good at being motivated to work alone, but with practice you get better at that. I've really learned how to put my ego aside and outsource, which is kind of important. Knowing what humans desire, sometimes inventors come up with these crazy things that, is anyone going to buy that? And so having that knowledge is really important. Quality of the strategy, I've gone from 0 to 80 because I felt like before I thought that I knew because I've been there and done that, and I really didn't. So my strategy now is completely different. My whole opinion of what licensing in has changed. Having a positive attitude. I was kind of negative because I kind of thought that people might take my idea. I had to travel the world, so I was kind of like negative, and then each and every one of those negative outlooks has been kind of proven wrong. So now I kind of see everything a lot more positively. Wasting time, I was really doing nothing for several years, wasting lots of time. Now I feel like I could be probably a bit more efficient, but that's, I think, an important attribute. You need to have good marketing skills and boil something down into a benefit statement, not just a feature, and that's something which I've learned a hell of a lot. You need to know which ideas will make money. The tennis ball collector wasn't really going to be one that made a lot of money. It was a passion. It was something that I really would like to have seen get out there, but really it's not something that is going to sell as well as some shoes. And that's the end. Thank you very much. So I've run over quite a lot, so if anyone has to leave to catch a train or whatever, that's fine, but I'm happy to answer your questions if I can. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, can you outsource the entire process rather than learning it from scratch? And if you've got very limited time, you can go to a website called Quirky, and Quirky's great because you put your idea on there, and there's a community of designers, engineers, marketing people. They'll come up with a name, they'll do the whole thing, and you might get a patent pending, but really I don't know, that's a risk, I guess. But that's the other alternative if you have limited time, because it does take a bit of time. But I feel like if you're going to be a professional inventor, I don't think it's a huge amount of learning to do. Oh, did quicker. Right. There's probably another one which there's probably another one already out there that probably half a dozen. But these platforms where you can share ideas and crowdsource not just the money but the input. Yeah, that's the way to do it if you've got no time. Yeah. So if you can file it online, so this is writing the document is really the thing that takes the time. So you can write it if you're experienced. You might be able to write it in 3 or 4 hours.
From submission to getting the presentation.
Yeah, well, 24 hours if you want to play it safe. But if you could submit it online and then go straight to the phone and ring companies, and it's probably okay. But if you want to be super duper safe, you could wait 24 hours so that your date is exactly at least 1 day before anyone else's.
Also, once you submit it, it comes to
Yeah, you can submit it to companies straight away. Yeah. Yeah.
When the prototype requires a lot of effort, a lot of investment, what would you do to make it?
So the question is, if your prototype requires a lot of money, a lot of effort, okay, so there's 2 ways of going about it. You could make the video and fake it. So you could just, have it so that it looks like it's working on the video, and then you can see if there's interest. And if there's interest, then you try and it kind of motivates you to do the work or to have them maybe develop it. The other thing is just to, if you're coming with lots of ideas, just to put that on the back burner and say, that's a long haul project. I need a quick win. So I'm going to do these other ones first, and when I get some money, then I'll go back to that one. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, yeah.
How will you license a product when you are dependent on someone else's hardware? Like, if you want to make something in Internet of Things, or if you are using, for example, Intel chip, and software is something you are using.
Software. So it's like, how do you license a high tech technology?
Yeah.
So.
Hardware is there are some different vendors, they have their own patents or licensing terms.
Yeah.
So is it possible to do that?
Well, you can license to any sector, but knowing that sector is really important. So getting someone with experience to tell you a bit about what they're looking for, like in terms of are they going to maybe work around you if they can? Do you need several patents? But really, the process rather than the way that you pick the companies is really important. So you just have to know which companies might be looking for that technology. With consumer products, you can find the companies more easily because you can go on to Tesco's.com and find out all the manufacturers that are selling a certain type of product in that store. And so that's how I generally build a list of potential licensees. But with what you're talking about, probably a trade show would be a really good place to start. That's generally a really good place to start. But with business to business, I think is probably the best thing to do.
So what is the actual difference in licensing and patents? What is the process of starting licensing?
The process of starting licensing. It depends on the sector. Some sectors you don't need a patent, other ones you get a patent pending status. Then you generate some marketing material. The very most important thing you start off with is you have to know where the market is currently. So being an expert in your micro category is the first thing, because it might not make sense. It might not make sense in the micro category. It might already been done. So really knowing where the market is and whether the product fits into the current market, and is there a demand for your invention. That's where I normally start. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, so mostly utility patents. Very occasionally you can get some protection over the way something works by the way that it looks, but a lot of products aren't like that. Sorry? It's a provisional patent application. Yeah. No. yeah, so you can protect the way something looks and get some, but really, yeah, I'm just getting utility patents. What was your other question?
Oh, no, it's just research versus design, obviously, as you're doing with
Yeah.
things anyway, not doing claim sets.
Yeah, yeah. The way that, if there's interest, so I get the provisional patent application, $65, and then if there's interest, if there's a deal that's going to happen, then the way that you, if the patent's important to get, you can actually get the licensee sometimes to actually pay for the patent, the full patent. And if they're not particularly keen on that, then you can actually ask for an advance on the royalties. So you're both looking to work with each other, and quite an advanced stage in the negotiation, you can actually ask for an advance in order to pay for the patent, and so that actually comes out of your royalties. So you know.
How long do you research prior art?
Oh yeah, the researching the prior art. I don't spend a huge amount of time doing that because it can be very time consuming, but I go onto Google Patents, and I probably will spend between like 1 and 3 hours. Yeah, that's it. And if something has been patented but it is not on the market, then I have to go back and ask why. Is it because there's no demand? Is it because there's no one who knows how to manufacture? So, you know, picking apart that, I don't always, if someone's already patented it, I would then try and improve that if there was a demand. Yeah. Yep.
I just want to know, are you satisfied with the financial return from licensing your idea?
Am I satisfied with?
From the financial return, so that you're getting
the return?
Good financial return.
Yeah, I think so. I think the financial return is very good. Dyson is a great example because he never gave any equity away of his company, and that is why he became so incredibly wealthy. And so if you license, really you're giving away, you're going to get a lot less per product. But really I think it just depends on your strengths. For my strengths, I think that it's really important for me to get lots of results quickly, get high volumes quickly. But I think, to answer your question, I think it's very, very healthy indeed. And the thing that's really good is that you're not investing a huge amount of money. So £150 per product is nothing compared to what you'd have to pay if you were doing a Kickstarter. But with Kickstarter you get, that's another way of reducing the risk. But if you just to do a Kickstarter successfully, you have to invest a huge amount to make the prototype really good, to make the video really good, to pay for the PR, and you can end up spending £5,000 or £10,000 just to give it a fair chance on Kickstarter and then fail. So I think in terms of financial risk, it's very good. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering if you said about approaching companies, like their strategy around that. I was even
Yeah, so when I did the shoes, I approached all the major manufacturers of sports shoes, and I sent it to their design department, which is like the worst people to send it to because it's their job to come up with ideas, and so you're making them look bad by saying here's what you should have done. And so really the best people to submit to are the marketing or sales departments. And the way that I build the list now is I figure out where my products would most likely sell. So if it's a sports shoe product, then it would be in the sports shops. If it's a health conscious product, maybe it would sell on in the natural shoe store. So it really has to be a good match. And so you'd go to those stores, and it's even easier to do online now. But you go to that segment on the online store or in the physical store, and you look at all the shoes or all the products that are around your area, and you write down the manufacturers by turning over the boxes, and those are your first picks. Generally, the medium-sized companies, the ones looking to be those big players and just need an extra idea, those are the ones that look at ideas and are able to do something with it. The bigger companies, there's lots of red tape that sometimes they don't like looking at anything that doesn't have a full patent on it, which is, you know, just a bit of a drag really. It's very small companies, have limited resources, so they don't have the distribution, they don't have the muscle power to get to the market first. So yeah. Yep.
When you write a letter to those companies, business companies, are there any chances they will copy this product? Or probably mention a license number or patent pending, something like that?
Yeah, so I write, if I've got a trade name, put TM. You can put TM behind your product without any paperwork. It just means that you're intending to use it. And then I write confidential on the materials. I write, sometimes you put patent pending, but don't put it in big letters, otherwise people think you're a paranoid inventor. I tend to call myself a product developer because that's it doesn't ring alarm bells so much. And it really it's all about knowing the sector that you're sending it to. That's really critical in knowing how much protection you need and what steps to take. Yeah. If they, I mean, some companies now actually have a process in place. So I would normally ring up a company and say, "Hi, I'm Tim Brennan, I'm a product developer. I'm interested in submitting a product to your company. Do you look at products from outside, right?" And I've said that so many times, and generally they say, "Oh, yeah, we've got so and so." And sometimes they have a form to fill out. Sometimes there'll be one person who you email. But other times they'll be like, you've just asked the most unusual question, they've never heard it before, and at those times you need to kind of steer them a little bit towards sales or marketing. Yeah. Yeah.
You say you're not paying pending in the US.
Yeah.
Why? You live in the UK.
Well, okay, so the US is got a bigger population than the UK, but they've actually got a lot more spending power. They're one of the, you know, they're the biggest market in the world, and if, you know, to a certain extent, that's the way I've been taught, so I just kind of go along with it. But really, I understand the reasons why I'm doing it, because that's really where the market is. There's also something called a PCT or something. So if something's going ahead and it's really successful, then you can apply for a patent in other territories, and you kind of get to skip the initial stages. So in Europe, you have to apply for a patent, and then you get the full patent. Whereas if you've got a full patent in the US, you use the PCT to go straight to a full patent in Europe or the UK. So, you know, some companies like to patent in China just because then they can stop factories manufacturing anything that isn't belonging to them. So, but you know, it depends on the sector and their preferences. Okay, yeah, a couple more questions. Ido? A good agreement. Okay, so normally all royalty percentages are between 2 and 7% of wholesale. So wholesale is what they sell to the shops at, and that's pretty typical. And where it is in the 2 to 7 is pretty much dependent on the volume. So unless you've had a conversation about the volume, then it's really difficult to know whereabouts. And experience is everything as well, because if you know someone who got 4%, then you know you can go in and say, I want 5%, and then you know, or I want 6%, and then you might negotiate down to 5. So it gives you kind of like an idea. So those two things are really important. Sometimes there have been people who've got a royalty of 25%, but the market has been really, really small. And likewise with packaging, if you were selling, you know, millions every day, then you'd settle for 1% because that's fine, and that's generally the way things are done.
You mentioned I think you had secret 7A. What's
7B? I don't know. The thing is, right, I wrote the 7 secrets because the 7 secrets sounds good, and it's like, but it sounds a bit too definitive. And it really depends where you are. Like, you know, your secrets are probably different to mine. So where you are now and the things that are most important to do is kind of dependent on where you know, on the person. So I probably couldn't, you know, download all the information to you guys in one evening. So I thought 7 was just a good number, that I won't overload you. But 7B, I don't know. No, I just kind of thought, if I tell you any more, then you won't remember the first one. But there's lots of them. But I think these are just ones that came to mind. Okay. Yeah, well, I haven't so far. But the way that I would do it would be, so there's 2 types of lawyers that you need: a licensing lawyer and a patent lawyer. And so with a patent lawyer, it's best not to involve them early on, I've been told, because you know your invention better than anyone in the world. And a patent attorney will know the lingo, but which is kind of like what you use them for. So it's a bit like, I use them like I use Google Translate. I figure out what I want to say, put it into that, and then they protect it really well. Whereas what a lot of people do is they go straight to the patent attorney and say, protect my idea. The patent attorney might not really understand the benefit, what they're trying to protect, and so you can get the benefit by working around the idea, because there's more than one way to do it. And so the patent attorney really doesn't think about workarounds, whereas as an inventor, that's what we're really good at. We can think about 10 different ways to get the benefit without, you know, doing it that way. So and then the licensing thing, that's one of the great things about InventRight, is that they can get you like 90% of the way through a negotiation, and then when you're just about to sign, you think everything's great, you then show it to an attorney and have them look at it, and you say, right, I'm just about to sign this, is there anything in there that's bad that you should know about? And then that way you save a huge amount of money on, you know, because if you have them draw it out from scratch, it's like thousands. Yeah, thousands, yeah. Okay. All right, thanks very much for coming. I hope you got something out of it. I think we have to be out by 9 or something like that, so yeah. You can stay here and mingle if you wish. Okay.
Thank you very much.